Okay. Um, I think I mentioned at some point that they tried to put me on antipsychotics, but I couldn't relate to what they tried to say I had. And personally, I just sort of never really developed what they thought I would. And then stuff happened in my life. Try to personally keep this a certain way. Anyone who tries to look into my records, like, a lot of that was not a commentary on me. It felt like it was a part of my life that was not me. Like, you know, you take every part of that document, of that place, however you saw me, that I wasn't there in that. Like, that was no one, and now I am someone, and I want this to be how people perceive me. Like, when they see me, instead of that, they see this, and perceive me from this person here rather than what would have been that. And I think, like, again, I have to remind myself, as long as I know, it doesn't matter what other people know. It's just that when I was younger, the person who used to exist when I was younger, uh, I felt like I had to conform to other people's opinions, and then the person, okay, the person who went, okay, the person that exists, that was here, sorry, between 2000, 2000 and, you can follow the dates of the videos here because it's a few years ago from here. It's better to say, actually. I have this fear of losing my thought processes because I never thought growing up, and if I had thought growing up, I would have just thought deeply and never looked back on that or thought about that. I would have just been like, oh, well, I'm a person and I know things and that's all that matters and I don't have to worry about that. If I had been into personalizing and thinking and doing all that at the time, I just want to be seen as that person, and I try to remain to where I'm now thinking, and therefore, like, all you are is your thoughts. So, being a person for real this time, like, actually being a person, like, knowing myself as a person, I'd rather do that now and introduce myself compared to any way someone would see me. And I hope to never, ever, uh, question myself, never feel conformed to society in that sense. Because society is like whatever we personally make it as people, and it's so many deep, realistic, like reality things of reality. And I still have the original point. Like I have the original point that I started at. Um, I want to stay where I am, and I just think like the opinions I used to conform to, or like not like conform, people used to think for me, or I'd realize people didn't know were at the part of the process that I was at. So they completely like I just like it. I kind of hold on to the memories. Of, like it felt like the people that I personally like I tried to like the people I tried to talk to um didn't get me or talk to me or be invested in a relationship in that way or think with me or make any progress with me. So I felt I couldn't think for myself properly. Like it really scarred me. And and then they told me um everyone thought I was a certain disorder, which I really wasn't. And when I was upset about it, I was told I was making shit up. And it's just why I'm so. And then I'm told like it's not that deep, and then I'm just scared of losing my perspective because of all of that. And I need to hold on to my thought processes and develop properly now. Like I need to keep that. It's just like an interesting topic because like I'm saying this and then I'm not even thinking properly doing it, and then I'm so scared because I think the deepest in my family, I think the deepest out of the people in my friend groups, I'm constantly brain exercising to think properly. I've been told so many times it's excessive thoughts. I've been told so many times like it's just you don't conform to what people want, and then it's like they think that you're too much or too little or yada yada, and people make comments all the fucking time, and they have opinions, and they're brutal, and they're pushing people down. It's like a witch hunt. It's like we breed ignorance and lack of understanding. It's like the Nimona movie. Like I try to say, hey, I think very deeply. I think in reality, I try to be this person. I try to do what's right. And people say, like, a lot of things. And I don't have to justify that or give them a voice here. So, you know, just. And it's not picking and choosing because obviously that part still exists. Like, if it comes up, I will talk about it as is right or relevant to do so. Um, I'm not going to hide it. I'm not going to try to twist the story. I will be as realistically right as possible. I will try. I'd even prove whatever I need to. I'll show everything, and not in like the eye of a hurricane way, like in a proper setup way. Not in a way where I let anyone think for me. Not in a way that I let anything keep me from thinking properly. Not in the way that I overdo it, right? Like, and then not in the way that anyone push me around from being authentic. Just progressing into the reality that like I'm properly thinking and interpersonalizing that accordingly, and I just need to think the right way. And I'm just like I don't want people to tell me like you don't make any sense or whatever the fuck or whatever. Like it's usually gaslighting because I am thinking properly. Like I understand other people, I understand myself. Usually like we have very low reading comprehension in this current societal like point. So it's just personally like thinking in that depth in that reality. Other people aren't gonna notice, and I'm never gonna give up having this over anything they have to say. And it's just like I've changed so much. Sorry, I've been this person and I'm not. I want people to see me as this, is kind of like what I'm trying to get, like the reality. So we can start. I actually want to talk about the fact that they're like I'm so scared of reality happening to me a certain way that like I'll progress losing myself as a person, like losing all this, and like I sabotage and I think it's not worth it. And then I just think like, oh, like go get a job, go get like this or that. Like I call people and I'm like, I'm ready for programs. I'm in, like right reality, like I'm ready to get my hair styled, new clothes. I'm ready to move across the country, get my passport, get my driver's license. Right, like I'm ready to do all this stuff, and then like they start. I'm ready to personally place myself in all this, and then they're like, we're not ready to have you in that sense. We're not ready to like do that with you. And it's like then it never happens. Like I get ready, I try to make relationships, I try to get things together. It's like reality is constantly pushing me down, but progressing me. And then it's like the people around me, and it's just like the way things are in society. And it's like it's everything, and I'm like really putting this perspective right. So I just want to start documenting. I just want to make progress somewhere. I want to like think and even if it isn't like quite recovering, like I want to start thinking for myself properly and like the reality of things. And I want to document this so I don't want anyone to take this from me. I don't want anyone to like. I've heard so many opinions, and I'm gonna start getting into that. I'm gonna start like if someone wants to, like, and I'm thinking, saying like if someone in the reality, like I make progress, make the reality story, like I've progressed a lot of things. This is where I start for real now and keep everything in mind when I'm thinking. This is where I make updates. This is where I think where I want this to go. It's like a puzzle, right? But the puzzle is like all these different angles, all these different progressions, all these different approaches to do the right thing. Everything needs a different method. Everything needs certain like we might even make the next right thing. We might make a new pattern, a new element, a new anything really. Like I've spent so long building reality and seeing lines and things and stars and not like seeing, but like thinking on that kind of stuff. Like I'm gonna say like I take the I'm trying to like immerse, but I take like the reality of like the planets, the stars, the chemicals, the gravity, people, interpersonalization. Like I see like the categorization of that, the systems, and even then I just think through the interpersonalization. I think like, oh, like if I'm gonna do this right, I'm gonna think of progressions on how to apply all this in reality to what I'm saying, progressing where I'm going, the updates, what I'm thinking, all this stuff, updates, right? Just progress somewhere like in reality, person like to these vlogs. Like I want to do that, so I need to think of a topic. Give me a minute. I guess I can start with. I'm gonna be exhausted from talking. Like I think this is gonna be like I'm gonna be like really tired. I'm gonna think like I'm gonna be talking about things, and then I'm gonna lose my voice. Like I'm gonna like 30 years from now because I talked so much. I'm gonna lose my voice. I'm gonna be like. When I was your age, I had a lovely voice. I had a pretty voice, and I lost that. Did I ever mention that people complimented me in such an unhealthy manner that I could never properly compliment myself? It's interesting because I went up to my family members or people around me at a hospital or around. But in my relationships, they never gave me compliments. But in a way that I appreciated it because they were more authentic in that sense. But other people, when I tried to talk to them and interpersonalize with them and encourage them or talk to them normally in reality, right? They took, they took their opinions. They took their opinions, and then and in the internalizations of things, they took their opinions and they tried to tell me overly that I was beautiful and I was smart and I was all these things, and I tried to take it once and respond, no, I'm not smart, I just know things, I know the reality of things. And I have internalizations and I progress where I want things to go right. And I know these things, and I take my thought processes and I build something beautiful, and I think in the moment and wherever it might go and what I'm ready for. And I progress. I'm not really smart. I'm not stupid. I know things, and I interpersonally progress to uh, do things right. And I think that, and they didn't listen. They kept repeating it over and over, and I felt horror. I felt ruined in my sense. I didn't feel like a person to watch it, and I forgot about it. And I was ruined. I was a person again, and I actually started being scared of the word smart. So it's funny how much when we try so sincerely to appreciate people, if we push them too much, we lose them. And if we try to fill their heads with ideas, it gets to their head, or they don't believe it because you've repeated it so many times, or people say things thinking they're helping you internalize it, if that was the right thing, and instead you are scared because on one coin side of it getting to your head and the other it progressing proper uh well progressing to making you not believe it. In the middle you have believing it, internalizing it in a healthy way, and either you think you're not that or you think you are that, expressing yourself as a person. And I think, as long as you know it, it matters. And people are going to say that's so smart, but no, it's not. Lots of mistakes, lots of not right, lots of the right thing, just a normal person, really. And Those people, the biggest compliment sometimes is listening to people and trying to say the right thing, what makes them feel seen as a person. So it's funny how, right? It's funny how when you try so hard to make someone feel personally loved, you end up hurting them so much more than you were willing to realize. And I think the metaphor here is that, you know, we hold flowers in our hands, but we touch the wings of a moth, but we crush it as a result. We ruin the touch with our love, and sometimes we just need to let it progress and live, right? Because the more we overly compliment, the more we try to be bubbly, the less we seem to be really living, the less we seem to really be a person in reality of things. We don't think as much. We don't actually, we're not as authentic, we're not as serious, we're not really there. It's not right. So just knowing things and having that ability. I would be smart if I was really given that chance at life, if I was given the right reality, if I'm just clinging on really, right, knowing things so much. So I I can disagree. What is the appropriate way to do that? Just be like, oh, I don't think so. And they could be like, no, you really are. And it's like, no, I don't think so. It's hard. You can also be like, I appreciate that, but I'd rather not relate to having that compliment because I don't feel like it's like me as a person. Sorry. And that's okay. And it can be, if they're rude about it, then they seem like the strange one. But I ever tell you that. Anyways, I used to have a pretty voice. I lost it a long time ago. Right, and I think I talked a lot growing up. Really, was this project I had, and that would kind of be like what I would do. And I really think like I've in reality like doing this, I've grown an attention span. I'm growing an attention span even now. Like I feel like even now like. And the thing is like I'm not telling anyone this, but I feel like my frontal lobe is on the verge of collapsing. Not like collapsing, not physically, but like the connections inside are really sensitive. So I'm thinking, and I can physically feel that part of my brain. It's like it can't handle being there, but I'm interpersonally trying to keep it there. And I'm just trying to interpersonalize. Okay, you're out of this, you're out of this. So that's there, that's there, that's there, that's there, that's there, that's there, that's there. Pressing from this to this to this to this to this. I used to have very interrupted thought processes growing up as a kid. I would say like I have the right of things here. Okay, I have it all here, 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 where is it? I have it all. Where is it? I have it all. I have it all here. I have it all here. I have it all here. Hey, I have to actually press the starting. I also have very interrupted thought processes because I used to be told these really intrusive and negative things. I was constantly, my thought processes would get really interrupted, which would lead to, oh my fucking god, sorry. My thought process used to be very interrupted. It's all there. My thought process used to be very interrupted because of people saying things. Okay, originally, repeating myself a bit because my brain's like, but I used to be, and I think they tried to tell me it was like all in my head, but that's where it's physically happening. Isn't that funny? Right, we really say things, and one day and I don't think there's any damages. Like when I went to say something about it, I said it the wrong way. I panicked and I was like, oh my god, there's like brain damage. And they did like an MRI. No, there was no brain damage. I was like, oh wait, no, there's no physical damages. It's just my thought processes. They're all doing things. And they didn't believe me, so then I got up on antipsychotics, which was like, but there is physical stuff happening in my brain. It did not stop my antipsychotics. So I need time to kick in. It takes like months to kick in, and it took 9 months to prove that it was not right, and that was medical malpractice, and they should have stopped that or me off of that. And I will never forget. Like I listen, all right, but like I listen, I respect, I understand, but I'll never respect that. And even if I listen to, like, in reality, like, to myself, to people, to circumstances, to progressing, right, I listen to that, I will never forget what they did. But I had, like, very intrusive thought processes, and it caused a wave of depression, like a chemical imbalance in my brain. And then the thought processes that I have are consistently interrupted to the point where my frontal lobe is fucking broken. Not broken, but my frontal lobe, like, like, you ever notice when you're doing something, like, my thought processes feel interrupted, but, like, you ever notice, and I mean, like, notice, when you're, oh my god, fuck, I should not have done that. You ever notice when you're in the middle of laughing and you feel stupid for laughing, all of a sudden you stop? Imagine that on the level that you're thinking. You're thinking, and you're like, oh my god, so embarrassing. I just thought of a thought process about this, my connection went that way. It's so embarrassing, stop. And then it's just like, my fucking brain is broken. But, it's not broken. It just, yeah. Physically recognizing your own brain is, like, something I should talk about. But anyways, interruptive thought processes and the brain waves and chemicals and the like physical muscles and brains and, like, the wrinkles, like, the stuff in my brain, like, it kind of did all that. You should see a doctor, a neurologist. Thank you very much. I'm still personally thinking about that. I don't know what they're gonna do. Like, maybe they can help me with my thinking patterns, routine, other progressive stuff, or physical therapies they have, whatever the hell is needed for me personally. And I think, like, I'll explain and they'll document it. They'll see what's right, whatever's up with that. I'll research a neurologist and if I can, like, to know how to use their services, to know on the subject, to know how to talk to them, but respect them and know what they do or offer, if it's right the decision, if it's, have conversation, right, and listen to respect and precise what to do in that situation with them from their opinion on it and my opinion, the reality. They just know, like, just have that conversation. And it's not that I know everything or they know everything. We're just gonna they know more. I know things. It's not that they know more. So I know things. They know their profession. We have the reality of that. Whatever needs to be done with all of that will be done, I guess. And I should be okay, recovered by the end of it. Some fucking guy tried telling me, like, you don't know things and that, and I'm just like, I never fucking said that, buddy. Because I was just like, oh, I should see a neurologist. And, like, any normal person, they're just like, oh. And don't tell me that I wouldn't know normal. Because I have been living normally most of my life. Like, I've been doing routine programs. Adult education's coming up. General education, I guess. We have fucking my relationships. We have me trying to, like, research and shit for other people. We have me being a person, like, we have me thinking on things and the reality of things, like, as rationally as possible. I see that's normal enough, and I know that. Like, I'm not developmentally different. I'm personally, like, as neurotypical as I can be, really. The only thing is that I have physical neurological problems, and that's not the same as brain development as a person. Those are two different things. It's just me, like, being messed with as more of a neurotypical person, and I have a lot of things that run in my family, but I never relate to them. So, right. We have the fact that I want to go see a neurologist, and I was, like, talking in this place, and I was like, hey, like, I need to see a neurologist, and they were like, you don't know those things, and I was just like, I did not go through all this. I did not do research on all this. I did not think in the reality and the right of all this, and figure out, like, how I would respect the authority and, like, understand how to progress through that with them in routine and everything that they could provide, just for you to be like, Because I never said that, buddy. I never said that. I never said that. Point is, with all the things I've been saying so far, that's the topic I want to get to, actually. Like, those people. And, I said at the beginning, like, hey, you're allowed to talk about me too. And it's funny because you said, don't talk about us, but then I leave that place for a little while and you are speaking about me, you are sending screenshots about me, you are going off on about me, you're saying all this shit about me, and you're like, I am so smart for this. I am so not hypocritical. And I never said that you can't talk about me. I just said, please don't talk about me to someone I don't want to be associated with. If they want to talk about me outside of anything that I'm providing as a person, why would I put that personally on the person that I would be like in a relationship? Like, why would I take? When I was growing up, I never want to be hypocritical, and that's my goal now. And I keep up with that. And I think the challenge is to keep up with that. But in relationships, which is different to documenting things anonymously, if I went into a relationship with someone you didn't want to be associated with, and it's my place to talk now, I get to talk. I have the talking stick. You don't have to listen to this. I get to speak on this. Whoever listens, listens. Right? That's the personal place. And if that makes you feel threatened, that's not my personal problem. But, excuse me. Who would care about my journey? People like that are the reason I have depression. I think. I've been depressed. I might not have depression. But, let's see. I know, like, in the relationships, like, if I am in a if we're in relationship circles and you don't want to be associated with certain people, I'm not gonna talk about you to them because that doesn't feel right. That doesn't feel right at all. It makes me feel like a bad person. And if it doesn't make you feel like a bad person, and what's right to you, like, do you have your own systems on how that works? Because I'm just saying how I would like to make it work, and maybe if how I make it work and you make it work, if there's a system between that and the reality that makes that work interpersonally, then sure, I'd follow that as much as I can expand my brain to doing that, right? So you were in a relationship with that person. I'm like, hey, I don't want to be associated with this person. If they want to document me anonymously on the internet, those are videos. Those are not the relationship itself. Those are different in reputation of those things. If I went speaking about you to other people, I'd look bad. If you didn't want to like be associated with them, like I could talk about them in the sense that you're okay with that in that aspect. And you're not really an abuser, or are you an abuser? I've been thinking about it, and I think, are you? I I technically never visited that properly. I had a lot of episodes splitting, general resortment. I don't know if it was abusive personally to that extent. I do know it was abusive. Like, it was abusive. It it was a lot. It was a lot. Screenshots and everything. I remember going off so much because of everything in those calls, in the way that you had been, and how I tried to say what the right thing was, and you went to my friend and you said, like, stuff that made me think, like, oh, you really, really, you really, really think so? After I personally said things. So you know, just seems like you went telling everything. And you said, you can't talk about this in the server. I did not. I was not direct. So many things to consider. I was not direct about it being you. And I didn't share anything personally that was private, whether in that environment, whether like people you didn't want to be associated with, whatever. And at that point, I had not been abusive at all. nor if I know how they've been in the past. Like, right, if I hurt you, I do apologize for that. But the thing is like, I know for a fact, like, we were at a point where that was not happening anymore. Like, any of, like, any messed up things. And at that point, like, I think, like, the apology that could have came. And then, like, I'm gonna get that. So, putting that to the side for now. Right. Putting that to the side for now. It just seems like we had been at a point of a relationship where everything had changed and I'd been the right person, so we could have had a clean reputation, a new reputation. No one had to know that stuff, and we could have moved on in that aspect. I think nothing like of that had to be shared. Like, we could. I didn't go into like personal detail about the stuff that happened. Like, I was like, oh my god, like this happened with this, but like I said things and I didn't go. I'm trying to be respectful and I want to do the right thing. I don't want to be petty or weird, but being normal, doing the right thing, rational, reasonably like everyone else. Um, I never shared all that. I never went into detail to people you don't want to be associated with. I never, to right in the side. I talked about the past, sure, but I never put that to you as a person. And then I never did it inappropriately in any social spaces. The person that you are currently with is a person that had me relapse in thought process and thinking as a person in my life. Like, they were not good for me. And I actually want to get to that in a minute too. So I did everything that I think was right at that point, and I'm allowed to talk about it. I'm not over explaining myself. I'm just showing what I'm thinking, and I would heard say I'm unspokenly thinking a lot of reality in that too. But all that, you can map it out yourself and put the context clues down that you think are right, and maybe I can talk about it more. Maybe I can talk about it more in detail. And the thing is telling people shit like, you need to work on this, or you're like blah blah blah, like, or like, you're so stupid, you should like die, or like saying shit like you're never gonna make it anywhere or get a grip. Like, that doesn't actually motivate people to get better. That's just really stupid and rude. Now, if someone told me, if I had been a shitty person and someone gave me a wake up call, like, hey, I fucking love you, but if you do not stop going back to people that are not good for you, I will have to step away from the relationship. That's totally different. That's like situational. That's interpersonal. Like, that's in the reality of things. That's where like people are like, hey, you're fucking hurting me in this relationship, and you need to like work on that. Not work on it, like you. I would recommend, like, I recommend, and then you're like, okay, wow, I should really think on that. That's different. That's a constructive conversation. That's not just hurtful shit that mentally gets to people. That's not just hurtful words. Like, when we have developed language for thousands and billions and the spite of so many years, and you use it for simplistic sentences like that just to hurt other people's thinking. And like, where in the reality does that progress us? Where does that keep us? And it's just like, I don't want to live in that association or that progression, and I'm going to keep interpersonalizing in the internalization, like, away from, like, just as I'm talking to a person. But I know for a fact, remembering everything, I know for a fact that with all that, like, I did everything right, and I know for a fact that if I think on where this came from, if I can try to like expand on the personalization of like situations, the reality of things, examples, connections, storyline, development, association, depth, all that, really, just paint a picture and put everything together, like getting from somewhere to somewhere, do all that to make sense, do what's right, do that poetry, be known, perceive myself as a person, precise all that, made reality like that. Right, and it loops back around. That's right. If I can give that like explanation from how I felt as a person about these things and how these all happened and how this would apply, I'd do that right. And I think that's important. And I have built my brain to develop properly, which means I should be fine. I'm more hyperactive than I am anything else. I think, if I have anything. That's about it. I think I have like one thing, and that's like not even like one thing. But interpersonally, all those opinions, all the progressions, all the relationship, all that was not right. And then like me going back to someone or them coming to, like whatever happened with that, and then being told like I had done the right thing. I tried to talk to you guys, and then you guys had pushed me away and said I wanted to be on neutral terms, and that was not right. I don't think, because I would sit there and I would do the right thing. I'd map it all out. I'd progress. I try to improve. I try to do the right thing. I try to get through my life and personality, thought processes, reality, like life, who I am. I try to do a good job with that. I try to become a better person, and then like I try to commit, and I progress and I work on that. But like you sharing your opinions in a hurtful and rude and just non-constructive, as if I'm not a person way, is not gonna help me do that. Because like I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna be like, hey, how was your day? Here's my perspective. And you're gonna be like, here's my opinion. My opinion? It's not even like, hey, research suggests that bees they like to play. That's interesting, right? It's just bees like to play. What am I gonna get out of that? And then like I made a vent that I was not myself around you as a personal relationship. I was a horrible mess of feelings and still trying to do the right thing as a person. I went through so much. It was like a messed up situation, still trying to be the right person. And I almost lost myself as a person to all that. And then you were like, wow, you're right. That's so unserious. It was very serious. And people in comment section or places were like, very serious. They're like, oh, like this really hurts. Like I felt that too. But people, here's the thing. Here's the reality. When people are in those comment sections with us, when no, I don't have to prove anything. I just have to prove that. When people are in those comment sections saying like, if I don't get it, we get it. We get it that you don't get it. We don't give a shit. We think you're stupid. We think you make us uncomfortable. We're serious about it. We're deep. We think you are shallow, and we think that you're not. You're like we try to stay away from you for a reason. So, when it comes down to me being here and sharing this is just me documenting my thoughts, right? Like in person, who I am from here to that as a person. Like you either accept all of this and who I'll be respectfully in conversation to hear, or you don't accept me at all. But I'll interpersonalize them through all that, like do this to that. If you really want to know me, invest your time in me, like really, that you'll do that. And I just hope to be on good terms with people. And I hope people like understand, right? But like if whatever happens, and I cannot control it, like I still be my person that I am. I'll personalize from there, and I'll think on it, and I won't relapse, like I'll be a good person still, and I'll personalize through all of this here to here, and so from here to, I don't have to scare myself, and I'll be fine. From here to the future, like the long term, like improving and progressing and developing and doing all that stuff progressionally. Okay. I don't like think that it was okay. Like just in the right things. This thing is just, the thises are just me like seeing what topics there were. Okay. And personally, okay. Right. The person that I was trying to become, right? Right, quote, okay. And it was serious. And I do apologize for the person who hurt you, but you are not going to be forgiven for the person you had been to me. And I think so. I just try to say, like, I was a good person. You told people that you weren't, and you can try to get away from that. You can try to be as serious as possible to who you are now. You can try to say, you know, blah blah blah. I'm sharing my perspective. People are allowed to know you to that point, and you don't get to dismiss it as just a perspective. It's our reality. It's a point. Perspectives are a point of reality, and we all get to share our own perspectives and because the seriousness of that reality. And I'm never going to be hypocritical about that. I'll be very serious about that. It should never be, it's just a perspective. It is never the simplification of the depth of different programmings and systems and reality of things is the most shittiest point of things you can do. It's just a lamp. That lamp provides light. That lamp provides heat. That lamp was manufactured and structured to be put in your room. It serves the purpose of being there for you as a person, as a light for your room, for the setting, for the place. It provides so much, and we're not going to say it's just a lamp because it is manufactured a depth of so many things, and this is why the literacy rate is bad. This is why gaslighting is so common, and this is why we have this is what shallow people do. So you can think like that, but I will always be in the depths of reality, and I will experience life to a point that you are incapable of because you refuse to see things as more than a point, and it's not my fault. And if you think deeply in any extent of reality, then you are hypocritical. Right. But like the right thing in the person, like the thing is like I spent so long doing all that. It's just you progress as people, right? From one person to another, and realistically, the witches survived. We went hunting for and throwing around and destroying people who we saw out as witches for their personalities, their spells, the things we personally thought of them. We threw them in rivers. We threw them in rivers. This is just my perspective as a person, right? We threw them in rivers. And we set them on fire, and they lived, they survived. It was like they were the right people, they were good people, they were normal people, and adapting to their lifestyle and culture, and really seeing things from their perspective, and people can believe whatever they want, but letting them live that reality, and letting it change everything with the people around all of us, and wherever we normalize things in the point, I will survive, right? And I think, like, we have taken so much time, personally, and sometimes I feel like in the lore of all the stuff that we've been through, and I pay attention, I keep up with all that stuff, and I think it's stupid not to. Like, people who don't have the comprehension to think through the reality of the life they've been through, they're not developing properly. They barely live life. What's the point of being alive if you, like, sure, like, you're alive for your own reason, but, like, what's the point if you're not there to develop? Like, we have grown as a species so much to evolutionarily develop, and if in a society that tries to push us down, it's the most rebellious thing you can do. So I'm just thinking that when it comes down, and it's like I'm just upset right now. Like, everything will be however I'll be as these vlogs progress and continue, and I'm not stuck to any habit or feeling or whatever. It's just however I react and however I become, and that's fine. So when it comes down to like the people that I've seen, like in the lore of all of this, all like the servers, the people, the things that happen, the relationship, all the reality, I feel like a Trisha Paytas. Maybe I was problematic in the past, but really, like, I'm not, like, I'm in the right place now. And it's just personally how it is. And, like, from my perspective, reality will progress in the way that we normalize it. Like, we push for things. We do this. We, in our brains, in our mind, we progress how things are, the narrative, the story, what we provide. And that they can't take that from us. We were born to survive and to serve and put that point of reality. Really. So it's just, maybe that's motivational, inspirational. I don't care. Like, maybe it is. I'll think on that, personalize on that. I'll be in that reality. Like, people have their opinions. I'll be in that perspective. And I'll be in perspective and reality. Put that into that push. And it's just like, okay, I speak a certain way here. I want to present a certain way in conversations. I'm just saying things, but like that is just a point to like a huge, unsimplified, systemized reality and in depth of like how things are. And it's just like, you say blah blah blah, that, right? But it's just like, we are in an entire solar system. And as much as people use that metaphor to say, well, things are so small for us, that's the thing. They're so deeply there. If we had the comprehension to no longer simplify down and in depth feel the reality of this, we would see that every particle matters to the point of the reality of being in outer space. Oh, we're just a small thing on DNA changes throughout outer space. There are huge void areas. There are black holes. There are physical pieces of matter and gravity and life and reality, if we could just perceive it. And then there's our planet, full of evolutionary development and life and societies and environments and animals and species and just things and stupid school systems and that cut and bruise you got when you were 15 that your mom helped you patch up and she sung in the kitchen and it gave a certain smell and vibe and it was nostalgic to you. That was a point of life to everyone else experiencing life and going through things that we are thinking about in that reality, in that depth, and people can say whatever they want. It is that serious. And then, like, we are living in just billions of years of the planet evolutionary systems to the people that we are. So not only is it that our life does matter, maybe not to the point that we're the only thing that happens in life, but the reality that is shadowing through us and coexisting with us makes it all matter to live in the end. And that can coexist rather than pretending nothing matters to the point where you are devoid of reason or purpose at all. Instead of throwing yourself off the edge and never really realizing anything, you can realize so much and see how you're still a part of that in a healthy balance and depth and reality. And if you do that, then you make things matter. You make it count. And that's what you really need to do. And you know what? You can tell me, how does this relate to the characters that you say you can? Let me be a person. I will find a way to prove it. But you need to let me be a person first, instead of pointing at me at every turn. It's different if I am constantly hurting you in a relationship and you feel you have to respond to that, but it is another thing when I am literally trying to be a person and you come at me for that. And if I ever have gone after someone else for that, in a sense that I could have responded differently to prove that it wasn't that, then I apologize. Things were messed up in those kind of situations, and I feel like now, and I learned that from other people, and now I've gone through that progression, I've unlearned, reality of the person. I would like to be a person outside of people's opinions, and I will prove it. But the depths of that reality, we need to let ourselves have that. And the internalization of it, all the internalization of everything else, and all of the connections that we make, because people make this, and people think in that depth, we are meant to do this as people. We are meant to do this as a species. And I do not care what anyone says. It will always be there in that depth. And I'm allowed to experience and feel that and perceive that and be living proof of that. And I don't care what government wants to kill me. If I say some super secret thing, I'm going to say it. Because we are a rebellion. We are a people. We are a survival. We are an instinct of thousands of things. We're allowed to have that. And I'm going to progress that. I'm going to let that happen. And whatever topics I come up with after this, it's going to be great. Or not great. Or just good. It's just going to be. Okay? And I think from that point on, I did everything right that I was supposed to. I messed up, obviously, and I think living outside of their opinions, I'm living proof of apologizing, and I'm living proof of knowing I did everything right to the extent of responding to things. There's a point where it's your problem, their problem, and whatever point the problem is also the reality of everything else. And the point of different factors and categorizations of where that applies in the system of reputation or spectrum of, not spectrum, systemization of where that would apply. I could have responded differently. They could have responded differently. Certain responses, a certain reality, to certain point of factor, to certain detail, to certain everything else, in effect, to opinion or plurality, to messing up, doing right, to that, to situation, to everything else, or outside factor control of reality, things happen, and being able to live a healthy balance of that outside, being able to live a reality and a healthy balance of that, personally, and understanding that overall, whether making up for things or not, or realizing where you've improved and where like all the interpretation of all that reality is easier to do outside of people's opinions, not letting you live as a person. So, memorizing all this, whatever, living that reality. If people aren't willing to know you and invest time in you, why care about? Why should they think? It doesn't even have to be on you. It's not on you. Why do they think they just show up, tell us how to think, give their opinion if they don't even know us? Because it's one thing to interpersonally give a part of discussion. It's another thing to give what you observe. It's another thing to share how you feel. But being so entitled is not the same fucking thing. So when people tell you, and I'm gonna rant. Maybe people like this, people won't. I personally will do this. So maybe people are gonna go out of their way and be like, hey, I don't know you, but here's my unsolicited opinion. You can observe and conversate and be a part of the situation or things and personalize that accordingly, and whatever reality you live. But like, just being like, here's my opinion, I'm gonna stubbornly push this around, I'm gonna share what I think, and I'm not gonna have a proper conversation with you about it. It's just personally, it's so weirdly rude. Like, people can share what they think, obviously in the right setting, but when it's not appropriate, when other things happen, why would you do that? And then I'm sitting here living the reality of that interpersonally, and people can try to convince me like whatever they think, but they aren't gonna do that. And I know myself, right? So I'm not gonna let that happen. And the fact that I can comprehend and perceive this is already reality enough that they were wrong, and they can have their opinion. I don't have to put myself around those people or live that reality, and I can put my foot down and recover and survive in reality. And in their reality, maybe they'll be good people in comparison, or maybe I'll just live with the right thing. So, understanding that, I don't have to live in that anymore. And if I have to help other people out of it, if they want to be like in the right person, like in a relationship, like me as a person, sure. If those people live whatever they live, like they live, and I'm gonna have my perspective. If they witch hunt, if they harass, if they do that, that's their problem. Why do they think they get to show up and tell us how to be? If they're that disrespectful, they think they're gonna win through that? Sure, maybe sometimes they do. But on the psychological impact of what that does, which is gonna get into a whole political thing, when we gaslight and push and force, we are part of the problem compared to having the peace and having and you can apply that to so many realities of things in the story. I think the whole that like there's so much proof in that. But so much more change gets done when you do it right, not when you're just pushing people around, because that causes more panic and that causes uprisings and pushing and pitting and just groups of that. It causes more problems to resolve than it helps. And I just think, like, why do you think you're gonna get through like that? And then give unsolicited opinions. I've lived in that environment for so long, and I swear to God, it's not because of how you are as a person, because I've met so much. Okay, maybe it is. If it's a personality thing, be who you are, go through reality, maybe you'll progress. I've met so many people who are different developments, and they have never, ever been just that. It's literally the type of person you choose to be. I don't get it, maybe. Maybe they can call you out because they're in the right place to do that. I'm an interpersonal human being. I don't get to say that. I get to think and point out things, right? And like, whatever. And observe. And I'm never going to stick to an opinion stubbornly. I can prove things, right? I never have to live in the reality that I am stuck with someone like that. I get to improve, and in the reality that I do things right. And they have to too. If they fumble that, that's on them. Like, in that reality, I get to be a person. I get to be strong in that. And as I figure out who that is, that becomes important. So, you can kind of tell where I've come from. I've been through situations, I've been through things, I've been through the reality of that all. I have been to realize to the extent of like, oh, what I've grown up with, the problems I faced, back and forth situations, dramas, harassments, things like that. It doesn't make you a good person, and it comes from inside the house. There's gotta be a better way to meet people in the middle and be good to them. Because I've known problematic people, and they haven't even fucking done stuff to me. If I have not fed into the cycle of that with them, it's like the animation meme community, for example. You take people like Birdie. They went through so much shit, and they did so much shit, and so much shit happened, and they still became, I'd say, whoever they became out of that, good person or not. But we all were part of the problem, and I'm not gonna live in that reality anymore. I'm gonna move on, right? So whatever topics I think of and personalize from out of that, I'd rather do that than ever feel like I have to prove things otherwise. I'm going to pursue the reality of that. I'm going to live life, live reality, talk about things. I want to start this series, and I'm going to start from like this point of my life to wherever I in reality end up, personally. So I guess that's like the first part of my series. Thanks. Okay. I don't know how to end this off. I'll think of like an intro to out. I think not an intro, like an introduction to the whatever until I individually get to like wherever I'm going with that. So whatever happens, like that and whatever. We'll really get into the series. And that'll progress. So yeah, right. So yeah. Peace.